Again, the conversation still continues, but now we are shifting gears and talking about the SGR cargo directive. So there was a research at the University of Nairobi which estimated 126 billion shillings to be the loss in revenue in 1 year from Mombasa County since the introduction of freight trains. So Mombasa traders and truck drivers protested the order to transport all their cargo via SGR just early this week. This is what they had to say. Listen.
Tumeshaanza sasa na hatutarudi nyuma na tutafanya kila siku. Haya maandamano yatakuwa kila siku. Tutakuwa kila siku barabarani na tutahakikisha kwamba we are going to paralyze business in Mombasa until the government listens to us.
Hii SGR ikisema sasa mzigo wote bebe wao, sisi tusibebe kitu, ndugu yangu tutaishi vipi nchi? Ushuru utakana tulipe, tutalipa vipi? Maaskari kwenye gereji wanatakana walipe. Mimi naona hii ni kutonea. Na Mombasa hivi sasa imekufa yote, ni kama holiday tuko. Watu wanakuja wanaangaliana. Hakuna kazi kufanyika. Gari zimekaa tu unaziangalia zinaoza na bahari. Mfano kama kwetu sasa gari miezi 4 sasa haijafanya kazi. Hiyo miezi 4 ta afford vipi kulipa wafanya kazi?
Kwanza kubeba na SGR ni 126,000. Na kubeba na gari ni 80,000 na container irudi paka Mombasa. Je, anasema vipi SGR ni rahisi? Na ni 126 ikifika Nairobi peke yake. Kuna ile ikikaa hapo ile rent ikiwe inaingia inapelekwa kwa CFSs na container inaingia demurrage na kunakuwa na charges.
Na lori inalisha watu wengi. Tauni ngapi size zimezima? Tuanzie hapa hivi Marekani, Maungu, Voi, Mtito, Emali, Makindu, tauni zote hizo Machako zote zinategemea watu. Unataka kuniambia SGR inasimama kwa zile hoteli zote ziko pale, wale watu wako pale inasimama SGR?
So this directive is very confusing because it was suspended by the government at some point, but this was as recent as Monday actually, that's when the truck drivers were protesting. So it seems there's a bit of an undertones of the implementation in as much as the government said that it's been postponed until negotiations are hard. But even then, the simple directive, Karanjan, I'll start with you, that all cargo needs to come via SGR. How would that affect you, and is it realistic?
Let me say, and I've said that in so many forums, even with the government officials, you cannot kill a sector to build a sector. It has to be progressive. Because when you look at the truck drivers, there are so many people that they feed. And one of the things, I think it's common sense to say that if, for example, we decide like we have 1 million containers that the Mombasa 1.2 per annum, a certain percentage to go to the SGR and make it cheaper. Then a certain percentage is also given to the truck drivers. Then it's progressively wipe out, you instill that system. But you cannot kill that sector to build that sector, to be the other sector. You have the statistic that you have said here, that I think 126 billion shillings is going to be lost in Mombasa. I was in Mombasa for a whole week, I think last week, but there's no business in Mombasa. Actually, it's a ghost town. You go to Moi Avenue, Mombasa is a ghost street. And I think the government should have some critical and analytical thinkers to be able to put into perspective the impact of the policies that they enforce.
So from your importers, is this directive being implemented? Because even from Parliament, there was a push and pull about it, and they instructed the Committee for Transport to establish whether it's actually been suspended or it's being implemented. So what do they say? You
see, when they say it's being suspended and the effect is being felt, so it means that there is an undertone. It was not effected, and that is why I think the government should come clean. When you're talking about the costings of bringing the containers to Nairobi through the SGR, let's talk about time. Time, thank you, it's good when you talk about security of the container because it cannot be diverted elsewhere. But when you look, give and take, when you look at that, the effects of it are more detrimental to the economy than the enforcement of it are more detrimental to the economy. The pros are less, the cons are more. So when you look at what the government should ideally do, it's affecting us definitely when it comes to even the costing, because you are paying 126,000 shillings to bring a container to Nairobi, and when you use the road it's as about 80,000 shillings.
So the cost is even high.
So I think the issue is, and I want to be very critical on this, you find that there are people even who are moving their own businesses to Nairobi in terms of CFSs and everything else. And I think ideally what you're supposed to do is to make sure that you don't kill Mombasa to build Nairobi. and also even to build the dry port. It has to be very systematic, because these are people who are feeding the economy and they are paying taxes. When you look at even those lorries, I think they have so many lorries. Where are they? And they have taken loans. Where are they going to take those lorries to? And I think the government should be able to look into that.
And Wamboi, you know, there's also a ripple effect. Should the SGR be the ones to bring in the containers, and Karanja is the one who's been dealing with this. Even at the depot, the containers have not been cleared. The SGR is essentially faster than the trucks. So isn't there going to be even a much more serious backlog than at the depot, even if we say implement it then?
There will be, and Karanja will tell you, the small retailers consolidate their shipping, because I'm not bringing in goods that take up a whole container. I'm bringing in goods that are part of the container. So 20 of us come together and consolidate a container. So the time lost, which converted to money, is astronomical. The fact that, I don't know if you visited the internal port here in Nairobi, and for even the president to have felt the need to go there and see himself, it's total chaos. I think one of the things the government has to keep working on is bringing in as many stakeholders as possible before implementing, so that there's the users of the system, the trucks and the SGR are probably on one side, because they're both transporters, but then there's the user, my members, Karanja's members, manufacturers, anyone using this transport needs to have also been consulted of tell us how you work and what would work best, given that these are the two options and we want to push both. Because again, you will not go to KBA and say, because of SGR, I now cannot pay my loan on. They'll just take the truck, and there'll always be a buyer. So are we working to improve, or are we wanting to maintain certain chaos at a certain level?
Right. Honorable Jakoyo, why is the government singing a different song from the tune? They've suspended the directive, but on the ground, as you can see, it's not the case.
If you are at my level, sometimes you wonder if there is a government. Because I was there when Kibaki took this economy from the doldrums, and Kibaki left us in very good space. Quite a serious economist. I said somewhere yesterday, why can't they he's not dead, why can't they just consult Mzee Kibaki and see how it's supposed to be done intelligently? Because this SGR thing is chaos, and I think we have not begun to scratch the surface of that chaos. You know, if they're saying the cargo shall terminate for the time being in Naivasha, but the clearing will be done in Nairobi, because Naivasha doesn't have the facilities. It's an even added cost to business people. What are you telling Kenyans? And you are the government. I mean, where do you want people to turn to? And then they say they want to extend it to Kisumu. Then there will be lake transport. You hear there's a port to be built in Kisumu. You don't hear the other countries building any port. Where will the cargo be discharged? And yet politicians are ramming it down the throats of people even in Kisumu. So Kisumu is dead, Mombasa is dead. This is just the hard reality. The second largest town in Kenya is dead. The third largest has just been killed. In fact, they laid off over 13,000 people who are formally employed just by knocking even sufurias of fish ladies with the tractors. You know, but the question is, if you are going to create employment, because I have seen somebody in the story in one of the papers today, which I've read sitting here, how this one in Voi is going to create thousands of jobs. You tell me. Port of Mombasa has been there since before the railway. Show me any Mijikenda who is rich because of the Port of Mombasa. It's just crooks,
right,
who are milking Kenyans. So think about the effect as we speak. The gentleman there has enumerated how many towns. They are trailer towns. You will go to Salga, you will then go to Malaba, then you will go to Kisumu. Those are trailer towns. by Christmas I can predict you will not have them. Just because of this one directive, and I can tell you, this SGR, there was no feasibility done.
Okay.
So because there was no feasibility done, somebody who is in this corrupt structure is busy trying to justify its viability. They said last year it made 12 billion shillings. 2.6 cargo, the rest, 2.6 passenger, the rest in cargo. But they're saying it costs 1 billion shillings to maintain per month. Well, who is fooling who here? And why wasn't it built with electric lines? Now they're busy now trying to put electricity on the trucks. And I am in court. I am in court because I said there was corruption in the acquisition of land. I've been taken to court. Fortunately, the person who took me to court has been charged with the same crime but he has not said he has withdrawn the case. They were selling government land to government. At what point do we just say this is a bad project?
Okay.
And I think we need to run away from it because it is not going to help our country.
Okay.
Yeah. Jared, let me loop you into the conversation. So 126 billion Kenyan shillings loss made for Kenyans who do business transporting goods via road. 60% of container freight stations, the people who work there had to be let go within a year. So how do we balance? How would you advise the government in terms of balancing road and rail?
I think, again, with a disclaimer that, I'm not an expert in this, and they have looked at it more keenly than I have. I'll just give you what I call an economist's view on this. I agree that, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game where what one gains is necessarily what one loses. But I think there has to be a very deliberate balance between those who are using, or who have the incentive to use the rail, and those who think it's economical for them to use the road, bearing in mind that there are what you can call linkages. And some of the linkages have been discussed here. There are some towns that have emerged or have arisen over time because of the road network that we have, the activities that are coming in there. And those have a backward linkage to not just the traders, but their households behind them. So that's a huge linkage that you have to take into account. So it's not simply a case of replacing trucks with the rail. You have to look back and see what are the linkages, and what the linkages does the SGR provide. Because if it comes with an additional cost, then I think it negates the economic sense of having it. So I think it has to be a deliberate but delicate balance between the two. Because the government, on the one hand, can argue that we are looking at the economic cost, not necessarily the financial cost. But the economic cost here simply means, the time it takes to transport on road, the risks of road accidents and stuff like that, the wider cost. But I think even taking all those into account, you have to have a deliberate balance between what's happening on the rail and what's happening on the road. Yeah.
So a deliberate balance, a delicate one on that. Okay, we want to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll finish with our last topic of the day. Stay with us.